I'm Simon Ditchburn, and the jigsaw behind me are the wall panels for the 8th and final floor of the Cube condominium. The last time I was here, we were way back on the 2nd floor. Well, of course, now we're right up on the top floor, the very last of the walls to be built. So it gives me the last opportunity to go through the system with you and show you exactly how these walls are put together, because it's incredibly rare to find it in Thailand. It's something unique, if you like. Well, I'll try and explain this as best as I can. What we have here is a production line of all of the molds that make up the different types of wall panel. Some of them might be the corridor wall, for example, others might be the bedroom, other might be the kitchen wall. So each one is laid out according to the position it's got to go, and of course the CAD drawing that has made up the design of the mold. So first of all, you can see the square in front of me, which is going to be one complete wall. The thickness of the square is set out to be the thickness of the wall, and step number one will be to pour about 2 inches of concrete in the base of that. Then they will lay the insulation panels on top of that concrete and finish again with another 2-inch layer of concrete on the top. Now, because everything at the bottom of the mold is sheet steel, when that's vibrated, it makes it super smooth as a finish. In fact, it could actually be the decoration finish. You can see there, that's the first layer of concrete going into place. That represents the back side of the wall. It's going to be between 1.5 and 2 inches thick, depending on whether it's a corridor wall or a bathroom wall, for example. Each walls have got different specifications. But basically, that is one half of the wall, one section of the wall. And then in a minute, you'll see the insulation panel being lifted into the wet concrete. Now here's the next part of the process. It's where the insulation panel is actually lifted into the wet concrete. Now you'll actually see the walk over the top of it, because what they have to do is make sure that the reinforcing steel gets pressed right down inside that first layer of concrete. Make sure that the concrete molds itself right up tight to the insulation. notice how the insulation doesn't go fully up to the edge of the mould. It's at least 15 centimetres gap. When we pour the concrete into that area, it creates a frame, a solid concrete frame, which is the edging all the way around the wall. It's so when we make the installation of the walls on the building site, we're actually installing concrete edge to concrete edge and not concrete into the insulation. It's all part of the strength. With the full production line having had their insulation panels now set into the wet concrete, it's time for the top coat, which is actually the second side of the wall. Now, it's really very important that this whole process is done while the concrete is still wet. It would never work if you allowed one side or the other to go hard before you put those insulation panels in.
You're watching here the vibration tool, which is probably the most important stage of all with the wall panels. Now, the machine itself is the same that we use on the building site when we're making the columns and the floor. And the idea of this is to vibrate the concrete around all of the reinforcing steel and make sure that it nuzzles nice up and hard to the insulation. Now, the more you vibrate that, the smoother the finish you get at the end. Now, we do quite often have an argument with the plasterers over this, because the plasterers want a slightly rougher finish where they can make their plastering over the top. But if you do vibrate literally to the maximum, you can get a full decorative finish, and it's good enough to paint over or wallpaper over.